Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for holding this meeting. We've asked you probably 3-4 times now about Al import, and you all said you hope that we'll see this restriction lifted. I think I can remind you, hope's not a strategy, and we're hopeful that you all will take the concern that is being expressed today about Al import back to your smaller groups as you discuss opportunities going forward. We've long been concerned about the extension of credit for ag transactions and trade. Hopefully, I think tomorrow we're gonna try and take a move in the right direction. I think you guys have highlighted the number one thing that we think we can deal with, which is 908. I personally support lifting the embargo entirely. However, you know, that may be a bridge too far for this Congress, and so we've got to take these baby steps. With that, I have a couple specific questions for you, Undersecretary. To date, the federal checkoff dollars have not been used for promotion with trade for Cuba. The loose reasoning, I think almost an assumption, is that this is due to the language of TSRA, which precludes the use of any United States assistance, including United States export assistance. Of course, the checkoff dollars are not taxpayer dollars, they're producer dollars. The federal checkoff programs is set so that farmers elect a board of peers who decides how those checkoff dollars are used. It's not tax money, and as a result, does USDA recognize the difference between your government assistance programs like MAP and FMD and producer-raised and controlled checkoff funds? And can producers utilize their own checkoff dollars for promotion for activities in Cuba? And if not, why not?
My understanding, Senator, is that the federal checkoff funds cannot be used for trade promotion in Cuba. Now, if it's
I'm asking you why.
Because of, my understanding is it's because of the current law that's in place.
And I'm suggesting that maybe the current law is being broadly interpreted, and you might want to go back and take a look to see if we can make that change without legislative changes.
Okay, we'll do that. But I also understand, it's my understanding that if there is state checkoff money, that can be treated differently. Yeah. But the federal dollars, the federal checkoff money cannot be used. But again, we will go back and take a look at just what the law says and if it can be used. Yeah,
I think just to re-examine that policy. Mr. Smith, I'm running out of time, but I want to go back to the cash in advance original definition and the other changes you're making to facilitate a more efficient and affordable exports to Cuba. At this time, do you feel like the administration has gone as far as legally possible and in terms of the definition to open up opportunities? And were there other things on the table as you discussed the changes that you did make that maybe you said, well, maybe we can't do that? Are there other kinds of policy things that were abandoned that maybe we should re-examine?
In terms of the restrictions on financing, I think the definition that we used is the definition that had been in appropriations bills from the Congress. That had been as far-reaching as I had heard in terms of transfer of title and control. So it's hard to imagine that you could interpret cash in advance far beyond the transfer of title, because it is largely the last step before you actually turn over the goods. So there has been no other definition that I've heard that could meaningfully interpret that statutory term.
So you mean cash in advance means cash in advance?
That's what I mean.
Okay. Finally, Mr. Skuse, I know that you don't have any boots on the ground in Cuba, but you do have folks in D.C. who follow exports and our competitors closely. We believe we grow the highest quality products with the nearest market. Cuba obviously is a huge opportunity for my state and the states that are represented in the Ag Committee. Given that export assistance funding is prohibited by TSRA, are you still allowed to place someone within the Havana embassy that could make those contacts and begin to do that groundwork without crossing the boundary? And are you intending to do that at USDA?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe we have an embassy just yet.
Well, We're hopeful.
Okay,
They are.
so am I. We can put individuals in there on a short-time basis for whatever assistance may need to be needed to look at different projects or to help them with different regulations that we may need. But that's only short-term. Long-term, I would hope that when the day comes that we have an embassy there, that we could work with the State Department and we would be able to put staff in that embassy to help us facilitate trade and to move American products into Cuba.
How many staff do you have currently in Cuba?
To the best of my knowledge, we don't have any at USDA.
And do you believe that you're prohibited from having staff in Cuba right now?
I don't know, to be quite honest with you. Again, to have full-time staff in Cuba, I don't believe that we would have the need right now to have any full-time staff until trade is actually open.
I think you get my intention, which is we think that this is going to happen probably sooner rather than later. And so we want to hit the ground running, and we would appreciate it if you guys would take a look at what kind of opportunities you could avail yourself of today that could, in fact, once we get things lined up, can, in fact, facilitate further trade.
Senator, I believe that when that day comes, we'll be able to act very quickly.